Twila.
And I'm Natalie.
And this is Twila and Natalie. What did we just do?
This is what happens when you are a woman of a certain age.
Amen, sister.
See, Twila, we do this show where we talk about the joys and the pitfalls of being a grown woman.
Right. See, I got excited because we're on a break. That's why. We're on a break. We're actually taking some time off. We're going to make some new episodes. And in the meantime, we're going to hop on board and go over a few things that we think are important to talk about. Not our exact format that we usually use where we ask a question, we sort of answer it for ourselves, but just a chance to sort of catch up on some things that we think we want to talk about. So let's start at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's talk about apologizing.
Yeah.
I don't do it very well.
Do you mean apologizing in general? Or are you saying apologizing when an apology is due?
Oh, that's
like
nice.
What's our context?
Maybe when an apology is due, or maybe just sort of the ethics of it. Like, where, like, do you believe in it as a concept? I thought I did.
Yeah.
I don't think I do.
Wow, that's surprising.
I know. I'm getting better at it. I didn't realize it till I had kids that I'm terrible at really apologizing.
We live in the Midwest.
Yes.
And in the Midwest, I feel there's too much apologizing. It's kind of, I hear it's very social, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, you're not sorry. You're actually not sorry. You're just saying that.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Do you think that's just a Midwest thing? You know what I feel like that is? I feel like that's a woman thing too. I think we're conditioned to apologize for everything, like taking up space. And that's probably, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
Because I refuse to do that.
No, but there's a I get that. But there's a difference between a legitimate apology that is due versus just saying you're sorry, almost as in a way that it should, like, get off my back. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, well, I'm sorry. You know how kids do it?
When you don't
bust
mean
your
it.
kid,
Yeah.
you bust your kid on
when
something like, hey,
it.
I told you can't have a second scoop of ice cream. Sorry. No, you're not sorry.
Yeah. I always, that in our house, that's always the, okay, now try that again, but actually be sincere. That we do that a lot. And I even catch myself doing that. I think that's a legitimate sort of like the sorry, not sorry of it all. But I just kind of noticed that there was something that I thought I was, I thought I was doing better at. I thought I was better at that. I just thought I'm an enlightened
happened?
Person.
Did something happen and you thought, did you feel you needed to apologize and you didn't?
What doesn't happen? It's how I live my life. No, we've been having like sort of the random, like, family dynamic. Sure. Things that require sorries, and I have teenagers now, which means there's always random dynamics at play.
Yeah.
I noticed that because of my children, I'm making more of an effort to own mistakes.
Sure. So
that they understand that you can make mistakes and you can move past them.
Yeah, great teachable moment.
Big tool. But I'm also terrible at owning mistakes when it comes to my husband. So if we do something, and maybe not even a mistake, if we just happen to have like had sort of a coarse interaction or something, and really and truly I was just being, stupid, and I should just, apologize and move on. I'm usually pretty, like, I did not realize how much my back gets up over having to apologize for just, knowing that I was out of pocket.
So you were out of pocket.
Oh yeah,
you're saying, but it's difficult for you to then apologize.
It's not like, I'm not like, who, me? I wasn't aware of that. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't,
you did.
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm sorry if you're hurt. I'm, like, I know I was being a jerk. And it's like, I was being a jerk.
So do you have a hard time apologizing? Is this mainly a thing, are you saying, with your husband?
I noticed it more with my husband. I honestly don't think I apologize for much in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, well, mind you, I said, I think it's because I'm pretty much like, I'm not a bull in a china shop necessarily, but I don't shrink myself in the world. Like, I don't.
You don't do the social apologizing.
No,
the
not
social
even
surface apologizing that
no.
you're making reference to, that sometimes we as women do, where we apologize for taking up space.
Yeah, I don't do that, and it does create problems in the real world, because a lot of times people will like bump into me or will like brush each other, and they'll look for the customary like, like, you're wrong, and I'll just cock my head to the side like, and.
Yeah.
Like, you were taking up the same space I was taking up. Why is it required that I'm supposed to be the one that shrinks down for you?
No, I've gotten better at it. I've had to learn to apologize, and it was mainly coming from an upbringing where I grew up in a very controlling religion, and there was no room for error. There was no room for making mistakes. You know, I worked for them, and you had to do everything. It was this standard of perfection that was expected all of the time. And so if you were apologizing, you were admitting you made a mistake. And when you're under so much pressure and stress to not mess up and not make a mistake, you don't ever want to admit that.
Right.
I mean, we would get in trouble for having a cold. I mean, that really should not be something you have to apologize for. Exactly. So I had to learn, and I realized it with when my kids were growing up, especially when they kind of hit the age that your kids are at, those teenage years, where I wasn't apologizing for things that I really should be when I flew off the handle and it was over and beyond. And I realized it because I wanted to correct my daughter. The middle one at the time had a temper on her, and she would fly off the handle, and I would, then tell her, like, hey, you had a blow up with your brother or your sister. You should apologize and communicate through it. And I realized I wasn't doing that with them, mainly her, because the other two were pretty quiet.
Is she the one that's most like you?
Yes.
Yeah, listen, that is where your lessons in life will come from.
Yeah, and
it's that one kid.
Yeah.
Usually your middle kid.
But it's amazing. Once I kind of figured that out, my whole dynamic with her changed, and I worked to swallow my pride and go back and go, you know what? It wasn't okay for me to throw that can at you. She used to keep a stack of, I was a thrower.
Yeah.
Chuck things at her.
See, my mom was one of those people too.
Yeah.
Like, my mom was absolutely a thrower.
Yeah,
she still is a thrower.
We
but
grew up that way.
Yeah, see, and I am the person that's just like, if we're going to start fighting, if it's going to be an argument, I will wear you down. I have stamina and vocabulary and dexterity and practice. You aren't going to out-talk me. And so it'll go on and on. Like I have over the course of my life, and I'm not proud of it because once I realized I was doing it, I'm not proud of it. But I have watched myself wear people out so much that they can't make eye contact anymore. that they just have to that they just go inward and shut down. Like I've probably had my poor husband like 2 steps up from catatonia at least twice in our marriage. And it took a long time for me to realize like that's not something to be proud of.
Well, you have a really good ability to hold your position. Yeah. And to make space for yourself and hold that space, which is a good thing. But, maybe if I could psychoanalyze you for just a moment.
Go for it. You wouldn't be the first.
Maybe it's too in part where, because you've had to fight for so much more. Being a black woman in America.
Yeah, that's true.
You've been in a position where you've had to be more on the defense. You've had to create space for yourself where for your Caucasian counterparts, there's an automatic assumed space.
Yeah.
And I think
in some spaces.
So
I
think it always puts you on that where I'm taking this space. This is my space.
Yeah, nobody gets to do that. And that's hard because it is because when you put yourself in that position, it's, I've told you before, my default is I will cut you. It's usually how I look when I walk through the
unapologetic cutter.
Yeah. I mean, and I admit that.
That's why you were unapproachable at parties.
Amen, sister.
Or at the local grocery store.
Still works to my advantage.
Yeah. So there's something to learn from that, though, at the same time. I think, and people who are listening, if you look at it, I think we fall into one of kind of 2 categories where we're unapologetic to an extreme or maybe too apologetic. Yeah. And there's somewhere in the middle. And I'd like to think that I found someone of that balance. I will apologize for something that I know was not my cause or my full responsibility to keep the peace, but I will do it in a way that doesn't take anything away from me.
Oh, I can't do that anymore. I did used to do that. I used to be the fall on the sword, I fall it now. And I'll say, to be perfectly honest, apology in terms of like how I apply it to business is completely different. I run, this is my company. I run the ship. So if something happens internally and it creates a problem externally, the fault has to lie with me. I don't throw people under the bus. I don't let people throw themselves under the bus. Sure. We're a unit. So, and I'm the head of the unit. So if we have a problem, I'll go to somebody and go, I apologize. There was a problem here. I take responsibility for it. So for me, understanding that apology hand in hand with responsibility is really important.
Yeah.
But I used to be the peacemaker. I used to be well, I guess it's my fault. No, I don't do that.
Well, no. And I wouldn't do it like that. I'm talking, I had a situation the other day where I was meeting someone and I know what, and it's someone I work with and I know what the time was. Mm-hmm. And she was really late and I couldn't wait and I had to go. But I also know she's got so much on her plate. Mm-hmm. And and so I sent her a message. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I think I heard the wrong time. Kind of give her a little bit of an out.
Oh, that's really nice of you.
Well, because she has so much on her plate. She's doing so much and doing good things. There was nothing to gain from me saying, seriously, or okay. Where were you?
Wait, this isn't me, right?
Or, no, it's not you.
Okay, just checking. It's starting to sound very familiar. It's like, wait, I'm sorry. Did I say
you've never
up?
not shown up? No, and I would straight up just
yes,
tell
you would tell me
because you could handle it. But I think when especially a fellow female, having that compassion for knowing where somebody is at and what they're dealing with and what they're going through, you don't always know that. Sometimes taking on more of that responsibility in an equal situation like that can diffuse it or give someone else some space, create some space for her, which is what my intention was. I know I didn't get the time wrong.
Right.
But I didn't want to put one more thing on her because really it wasn't a big deal.
Well, now I think I actually...
And then she owned it.
No, you know what? That's funny. I do that in real life all the time, I think. And you know that. I tell
you do that.
I tell everybody.
Life happens.
Yeah, I always tell people you do not apologize when life happens. Like you don't. And that's part of me not wanting to have be surrounded by women that I work with that feel like they have to apologize for every little thing, and they can just be themselves and bring the best of themselves.
Sure.
So I tell my friends, I tell everybody, don't apologize if life happens. Things are going to happen. Just explain what happened and move on. Don't apologize. Don't be like, I'm so sorry. You don't have to do that. When I see you next, I see you next. Don't apologize because we've been out of touch. I was, a very good friend of mine hadn't been in touch for a little bit. Had found out I hurt myself and didn't get a chance to get a hold of me before I had surgery.
Yeah.
And just felt terrible about it. I was like, why do you feel terrible about it? She's like, well, because I just, I want to be there for you. I said, but I know you're there for me. And I said, and I know that if anything happened at a drop of a hat, if it was any worse, you'd be right there. And I know that no matter where you were in the world, I know you were sending good energy to me.
Oh, exactly.
You don't ever have to apologize if life happens.
She's probably if you made a phone call and said, oh my gosh, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
It would possibly help me with this.
It would be an instant. Right. So I said, don't ever, you don't have to apologize when life happens. Our paths will cross when they need to cross. Things will happen when they need to happen. And I always feel bad when people put themselves in that position. So I don't. So I'm not good at apologizing because I always ask people not to apologize. I feel like maybe there's a solution to my problem.
That could be part of it.
I'm so magnanimous that I don't need to apologize. Okay, so on that note, I guess let's at least keep one piece of the format intact. We should give somebody at the very end. Let's give them at least a little piece of advice. So if we're going to give you a piece of advice about apologizing, what should you do?
I think number one, above all else, the apology should be authentic. When I talk about apologizing for something that I know wasn't my fault to create a safe space for the other person, that's not inauthentic. I know I didn't do it, but I really want them to be more at ease. Mm-hmm. Then there are times when I will not apologize if I truly don't feel apologetic, if I truly don't feel remorse over what the person thinks or feels that I did. I won't apologize for it. I think the key, like I said, is just being authentic and truthful in the apology. Don't say sorry if you don't mean it.
I like that.
Yeah, I'd rather someone not apologize to me if they really don't feel that than to apologize to me and not feel it.
I agree.
It's like an inauthentic hug.
So it's like a Midwestern hug.
We can get in trouble for slamming the Midwest. We love the Midwest.
No, I live in the Midwest.
We're sorry.
No, I live in the Midwest. There's a lot of things I love. I live in the Midwest. Okay.
I give authentic hugs though. Being Polynesian, it's
we're not from here, so we actually hug people. Other people don't do that. My piece of advice is apologize when apologies are necessary. Don't apologize for taking up space in the world. Yeah. Don't apologize for just being yourself and conducting your life. But if you know you've done something, if you've done something, if it's pointing out that you've done something that's hurt someone, actually like absorb that and make it right. I always say apologies are meant. I try to teach my children apologies are meant to be made so that you can make it right with the people that
exactly.
that
There's
matter.
that second part to that. Make it right.
Yeah, make it right.
Sometimes it takes more than an apology.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that'd be my piece of advice. Okay, so we'll be back shortly. We're just gonna be out for a few weeks. In the meantime, go to the website, go to matriarchdm.com, check out our show page, listen to past episodes. Hey, email the show while we're on a break. You can give us some topics or things you want to talk about too at hello@matriarchdm.com. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.